I don't know if you missed the mental software update for the modern era, but coerced consent isn't the same thing as consent. Liz Plank just explained an example of this on the We Are Man Enough podcast. It sort of feels like her story, and I don't want to tell it for her, but you can check out the episode or you can read her book about it. But we can learn from the takeaway, which is she was in a situation where she felt uncomfortable, but because of what was going on around her, she felt like she couldn't speak up. If you go to medical school or you get a bioethics degree, you end up learning about the opposite of coerced consent, which is informed consent. We've talked about this before. In the early 2000s, a man named James Quinn was given an artificial heart by the Abiocor Corporation. They say that he consented. The artificial heart was an experimental technology. It hadn't been fully vetted, and it eventually killed him. The history of experimental technologies being used on Black Americans is very dark. You can read about it in Harriet Washington's book. But for purposes of this video, it functions as an example of being placed by authority figures, in this case medical professionals, in a position where you feel you are unable to refuse. James Quinn maintained that if he would have known how much worse it would have made the end of his life, he never would have agreed to the procedure. While these are individual cases, you can do similar analysis on social scales. When you look at a figure like Jeff Bezos, he might say, oh, well, they consented to be exploited. They consented to the wage that I gave them. But did they really, if they were placed in an economic position by the larger society, that they really had no choice but to take the lower wage job? These kinds of coercions are tragically commonplace, and often, by definition, we are made to feel like we cannot do anything about it. Enter Silicon Valley versus the rest of us. Now, don't get it twisted. Having your data manipulated or stolen is most of the time much less severe than the earlier examples in this video. But consistently, we are all collectively the test subjects of billionaires' toys, the implications of which we often do not know and are not told about. I've talked about a lot of these before, but there's a new one on the radar. You might have even seen it already. The TSA is rolling out facial recognition technology all across the country. But zoom in with me for a second. See this language? If you choose to participate, you are consenting. Are you? Is it informed consent? Do you feel like you have a choice in the moment because your plane is going to be late or an authority figure is telling you to do it? And even if you do have plenty of time and you do feel like you can say no, are you informed about what they are going to do with your data? The TSA released a roadmap of where they want to go, and they want to get to live biometrics. Put differently, they want a data set that ends privacy as we know it. And they think that we're consenting because they're pressuring us, but we have to push back. The Algorithmic Justice League is one of the premier advocacy organizations working to hold the TSA accountable. And they need your help, and they need your story. They need to know, did you feel coerced into doing this? Did they actually tell you that you had the right to opt out of it? Or did they use their authority to pressure you into consenting? The algorithmic gods of ClockApp do not like it where I give you a place to go that is not ClockApp, but here's where you can go to give them that information. Alternatively, you can click through, I will tag them, and you can learn about the work that they do. Happy reading.